Thanks, Leanne. Good afternoon. How's your day been? Great, okay. Well, I've got 30 minutes, so it's a pretty broad topic, and I want to talk a little bit first off about strategy. And before I go there, I just want to give you your first takeaway for the day. Culture will eat strategy for breakfast every single day in a selling organisation. I'll say that again. Culture will eat strategy for breakfast every single day in a selling organisation. For every 10 organisations that we engage with that have some issue or an opportunity within their sales divisions, 6 out of every 10 of those issues lie culturally. 6 out of every 10 of those organisations currently have staff that either have been recently looking, currently are looking, or intend to be looking for some change over the short to medium term. And when you deep dive into the reasons for that and question them, almost to a man and a woman, it comes back to the organisation, comes back to the leader and or the culture of that business. So strategy, critical, but culture, more critical. So just wanted to leave you with that point. Can I ask just a couple of broad questions to the group? Who here has a formal induction process for their sales team? 1, 2, okay. Who here, when a new salesperson, let's say an account manager joins you, well actually I'll take it back to the room. Could someone share with us, what does an induction look like for those people that don't have a formal induction process? So you've got a new guy or girl starts with you in a sales role, what's that look like? This is an English-speaking audience, is it not? Yeah. Relax, let's talk.
We normally go through the product where we are in the market, then we'll go through every part of the system to make sure that they're aware of it. It normally takes us around about 2 days to go through from beginning to end, and then a little exam at the end of it just to make sure they're over top of it.
Great, so in other words, you give the information, typically verbal, maybe with some visuals, touch, feel, whatever it may be, potentially an experience, and then you critique them or test them for their competency at the end of it. 10 out of 10. Someone else, what else do others do? Yeah. So in other words, they understand the manufacturing process of it, the value proposition, the unique selling propositions of it, okay? And then what about from a sales perspective? How do we typically assist or educate these people? Pardon?
I take them out on calls.
Take them out on calls? So watch, do what I do? Yeah, great, so they could observe.
Then I'll watch them do it, and then I'll observe.
Great.
Give them feedback.
Yeah, good.
Another part of induction is to have the admin staff run through the process of what to do after a sale.
Okay. Anyone else do something differently? Yeah, Dan?
Always mystery shop the competition.
Right.
Kick the tyres, walk through, understand what the landscape's looking like.
Mm-hmm.
If you're representing a brand, for example, in our business, we go and look at the competitors and pretend that we're a customer.
Okay. How's this for a statistic? Out of 268,000 salespeople, only 26 that were surveyed over the last 7 years, only 26% of those 270,000 delivered moderate to high levels of selling competency. So what that says is about 7 to 8 in 10 of people out there selling something with the purest of intention, with the right ethics, the right values, the right morals, everything good, but when it comes to actually negotiating, presenting, qualifying, negotiating, closing business, it's problematic. And if you're experiencing that, I want you to know that you're not alone, but you need to be looking at doing something about it. You need to look at doing something about it because the window of opportunity is huge for those organisations that really want to look at developing their people. Gone are the days of interviewing people and going on a hope plan, just saying this person, he or she came across as though that they're a good fit for us, good fit for the business, ticked all the boxes, but how often have we seen 30, 60, 90, 120 days down the track, these people are tanking and they're failing. And that's setting people up for failure. So if you're going to take on a salesperson in your business, make sure that you give them the environment to be successful. For example, would it come as a surprise to anyone in the room that, well, who here currently gets their salespeople to audio record their sales presentations? Brings them back to the business, critiques them at the sales meeting, identify what the strong strengths are, but also what the areas of development may be. Does anyone here record their team? Pardon? Do it to yourself? Okay, well, if you're not doing it, make this assumption, your competition is, and you might like to consider that. It's no good just looking at figures on a spreadsheet. You need to find out what's going on in these selling conversations with your team so you can help them, not judge them or blame them, but to develop them. So that would be one very, very cheap, effective way of finding out and building a bit of unity within your sales team. If your sales team push back on that, that's a really, really good issue for you to consider. Why are they doing that? That's a cultural issue. They don't feel safe, and they need to feel safe to perform. So that's not a blame issue, that's an opportunity to say, well, okay, we're not safe, let's talk about why we're not and what have we got to do to get safe. Because if you can have that within the culture of your sales team, where it's an area of development, an area of trying things, of messing it up and then getting it right, that's where the really, really top elite selling organisations, that's their culture, that's what you'll find in them. Really, really safe environment to try new things. Let me talk to you a little bit about customer engagement. From a strategic perspective, who has a sales strategy? Sort of, yeah. What would it typically look like?
It's more around, where are the improvement opportunities, but in the different areas of the business, geographic as well as in the product lines. So we've got a few different areas of the business that and the opportunities that actually exist in those areas.
So would you write?
How can we build those?
Exactly. So you're looking at the different business units. Is that what you're getting at? And you would deep dive into each of them with, I guess, a POC, a person in control, a general manager, or someone like that, and they, in consultation with you, would develop a sales strategy. Yeah. Okay. Is that basically who else who's got a sales strategy?
There's people in a process. You're saying
100%. Yeah, I'm going to talk about process in a minute. There's a sales process, but then there's a sales strategy. I mean, what does that look like? So the strategic approach to selling should be, look, and everyone's got a view of the world on this. My view of the world is very, very simple. It should be just clear to understand. It shouldn't take, along with one of the speakers that was just before Angela, I walked in and he was saying about business plans like this thick. I tend to agree with that. If it's not short, sharp, and easily understood by many people, I don't think it should be written. So from a strategic sales perspective, for me, it's very, very simple. One, who is our ideal primary target? What does he, she, or they look like? And really deep down and intimately connect and understand the profile of that particular person. So that's the first thing, broken down by segment, if that's the case of in your business. So really understand that. Two, how do they purchase? What does their buy cycle look like? And so that's the second thing. Third, what does the decision-making process typically look like for that particular ideal target? Are there influencers? Is there typically one final decision maker? Are there a number of influencers? Understanding the negotiation, understanding the decision-making process, all the different types of power, the positional power, the negotiating power, the financial power. And the fourth thing is, how do we, what I call in our business, how do we touch them? In other words, what's going to be our engagement platform that's going to best work for them? Now, that could be as much as the telephone. That could be something like social media. That could be email. It could be an online engagement, or it could be a face-to-face. You also need to start looking at your current customers and working on them to become advocates. They play a massive role in strategy. In other words, your best referrals are the people who can recommend you to other people. Would you agree with that? So we've adopted a new approach to this now, rather than just rather than just doing nothing with it. We have now a group within my organisation. We've got a group of similar like-minded businesses that are highly trusted partners. I mean, they're reputable, they've got a track record, they do what they say that they'll do. And what we now do is, rather than an opportunity when it comes across our table, we have elected to, as a small group, be quite proactive. So in other words, hypothetically, let's say that someone was looking for a mid-size accountant in SME land, as an example. I have a trusted partner in that particular thing. So what I would do is I would actually pick up the phone and introduce this person. Does that make any sense? Like rather than here's an email and here's a name, pick up the phone and get these people connected. It's like if Jack was the prospect, so Jack, you can say no to this person, but say no after you've met them rather than saying no just because it's another name. So I'm really encouraging you. So taking that position that we have with our customers and asking our customers to really leverage their influence on other people. There's a massive opportunity in that. So strategically, I'd like you to look at your customer base in terms of how they can drive activity. And the other thing from a strategy is lead generation. Now that's just it's a really broad term, but how do we generate leads, not only reactive, but more importantly, proactive leads? Now, who here has a group of salespeople in their business that appear to be more reactive than proactive? Okay. Ever thought about why that is?
I think it's changed more and more as the years go on because they're all just expect everything to be given.
There's validity in what you've said,
Yeah.
but I think there's more to it than that. So you're saying it's an expectation.
Yes.
Okay, someone else got a view of the world on it, Dan?
The fear of failure.
Yeah.
Rejection.
Yeah. What we've tracked, we've got access to a lot of psychometric assessment tools, and what we see more and more over generations is the trending down of what's called sales resilience. And if you lack resilience in professional selling and you lack confidence and you lack drive, that's problematic. So these people don't need help in sales skills, they need a development program in resilience. And when you can build resilience within an individual, the most incredible things happen. Most incredible things happen. It's like, look at public, fear of, when I first started my business 25 years ago, one of the greatest fears I had was the fear of public speaking. That's a pretty interesting career, I suggested, to go up and start talking to people if you've kind of got that. So there's one or two options. I mean, you can just, that's my lot in life, or you can look to do something about it. And you have demonstrated that by the growth that you've experienced in your own businesses. You've done stuff. And I just want you to start thinking about your sales team, that they too can do stuff and want to do stuff if you've got the right thing at the right time for the right person. So the reason that there is so much reactivity in the business is because we haven't been developing them. However, that's not sustainable, because you need to also, point number 2 from today's presentation, take this and etch it in stone. If you are not talking to your target audience or potential prospect pipeline, if you are not engaging with them, make no mistake that your competition is. Your competition is. They have looked at that same opportunity pipeline and they are building strategy and engagement processes to get in front of those people. And so it's about us making sure that our team are very, very proactive and holding them to account for that. I also think another takeaway for today could be, in selling organisations, whatever gets measured or has a consequence or recognition, whatever gets measured and has a consequence for non-adherence or a recognition or some reward for adherence gets done. And so I think that, the days of just asking people, I can't get them to follow up. I can't get them to follow up. You don't have to live like that, is what I'm saying. It's about getting the whole team together and pulling the onion back and say, what is driving these behaviours? Let's leave our concerns and our emotions at the front door and look at this, because this is a business issue that needs to be addressed, and it needs to be led by you. And be amazed. I'm such a believer in the power of the human spirit, but it needs a concrete path. Now, flicking on to a process. Who here has a sales process in their organisation today that their team adhere to? It is a methodical way of how you go about doing your business. Does anyone have one?
I've got one, but I found the best salespeople hate following procedures.
Define the best salespeople.
One bringing in the most figures that make the business the most money.
I tend to agree with you with that, except that what you will find that those people have the experience to circumnavigate the process, because they won't get to a close of an opportunity unless they've gone through those particular processes anyway. So I hear that. Has anyone else got any process at all? So how do you function if you don't have a sales process? If you ask your people to go out and promote?
Ask a question. You're talking about in the moment in that one meeting.
No, I'm talking about something. I'm talking about something like that. That's an example of a B2B sales process. It has 8 steps on it. First one is developing a game plan. Then we need to make contact with them, need to build desire, got to create options, we need to present the right solution, we need to close the business, and we just don't want a customer or a client, we want a customer for life. So how do we satisfy that client? And then how do we manage and grow the account for further revenue? That is an example of a process that has a really clear start, a clear middle, and a clear end. And typically, some people in sales may be really good at developing a game plan. In other words, when it comes to market segmentation, identifying prospects, lead pipeline, we can do that. They're great. And even they're really confident making contact, even building desire, creating options. But suddenly, just looking at those, forget those lines for a moment, but if you've had someone on your team that couldn't close, no matter what you did, this person has just adopted what we call a quote and hope mentality. Quote hope, quote hope, quote hope, quote hope. They're order takers, not salespeople. And there is a big difference between an order taker and a salespeople. It's not their fault, it's the opportunity to develop them. Does that make sense? But they've got to recognise that they are order takers. And one of the ways to do that potentially could be to assess them. Now, if you looked at this, what you want is as broad as you possibly can, would be ideal. If you wanted someone in your business to manage and grow your current accounts, so this is a person who was satisfying the customer and manage and grow the accounts. If you profile that person and they come up with that score, what would that say to you? This particular person, the only thing that naturally motivates this person is the deal. I pass on Trump. Moving on, we've been video recorded, so you never know where this stuff ends up, I get what you're saying. But in other words, it is this person, the hunt of the deal for he or she is what stimulates or motivates them. And so if you were to find out earlier in a recruitment process, putting on a salesperson, that, goodness me, what I really want them to do is manage and grow the accounts, you wonder why they're in trouble 30, 60, 90 days. Now, is that changeable? The answer is yes, but it's long and it's hard. Does that make sense? So you want to start with someone that's fairly rounded around most of it, as an example. But conversely, if you were looking for someone to grow your business, your rewards architecture, your recognition systems, your compensation plan, whatever it was all designed to motivate someone to make contact, build desire, create options, present and close. And you profile that person, that would be an ideal candidate to put on that journey. And you manage them around that and that alone. Don't give them paperwork to do. Don't ask them to do much of the operational stuff. Just let them go and sell. Because that's what they're really, really good at. And there's a lot of salespeople, with respect, and a lot of our clients today, there's a case of paying these people 80, 90, 100, 120, odd $1,000 a year, often just through longevity that they've been with the business. But the business case isn't there that supports that. Does that make sense? Wonderful people, but the business case isn't there to support that. So what businesses, lots of our clients are doing now is looking at revisiting the reward architecture and going back to a much smaller base with a much higher compensation plan based on performance. So if I'm on $120,000 a year, well, maybe I go back to 70, but if I meet or achieve my budget, I can earn 140, 150,000. And of course, what's really happening with that, how do you think most people in sales, knowing that 26 or 28% of them can't sell, how do you think they're feeling about that? Yeah, it's problematic. So it's great ideas, but these things need to be approached quite strategically, and you've got to take your team with them, Okay, the second part of this presentation I wanted to do is just open up to a Q&A. I'd like to just sort of make it, not relax, but if you've got some pending issues in your business today, hopefully I made enough mistakes to get a couple of things right that I might be able to give you a bit of value. And often in this Q&A session, whatever you're experiencing, it is highly probable that a number of other people in the room are as well. So who's got a question about sales that should?
Okay, I've noticed that things have gone from cold calling and getting on the phone and knocking on doors and things like that years ago to now in this digital age that we're in. But it's all about engagement and contact via digital means, LinkedIn, Facebook, etc. Okay. how do you think that's changed the salesperson now? Is that, you know where I'm going with that?
I know exactly where you're going with it. Yeah, no, it's just it shouldn't be that hard, should it? The social customer. It's changed dramatically. Social media is profound, and it's going to get more and more so. But I just want to answer this as clearly as I can. It requires the salesperson, from developing a game plan perspective, from a prospecting perspective, to be redirecting his or her or their activities into more social digital contact, if that makes sense, rather than the cold calls or walking the pavement. So in other words, the behaviours of that resilience required to engage is still there, but it's gone from the old school to current. Does that make sense? The challenge with social, and I just posted a video a couple of weeks ago, LinkedIn. You know, it's just amazing. People, my profile, like yours, you know, is a, you know, it's a good profile. You know, people like to link in with me, and I'm selective yet very open to building my network with people that there is a mutual alignment or benefit, or someone I can help, or vice versa. So this person from Sydney invites me to link in, and I looked at his profile and I went, yeah, okay, that's potential will work. So I go accept. The next day, I get a telephone call from this guy talking about what? Him. Himself, his product, his offer, and what help I could do to help him achieve his objectives. Let me tell you something about not just LinkedIn, about people today in June 2018. Your customers, clients, my customers, clients, they just don't care about you or me. They just don't care. They care about themselves. And it is only when they connect, authentically feel that we care about them, that they will then start to care about us. Does that make sense? So in today's world, it is about them, then us. And that mentality, excuse me, that gentleman demonstrated was all old school, about me, and my business. So I wrote this video and I posted it on LinkedIn. Here's what not to do when you connect with someone on LinkedIn. And I put this video up and it's got, you know, hundreds of likes and all that, because it's the authenticity of that. Does that make sense? So social media, yeah, but it's not just about LinkedIn, it's about the engagement of that process. And that's a skill set. So yes, but it's still prospecting for new business development. Is that making sense? Yeah, exactly. Someone else, another question. Yeah, shoot.
Okay, so we've got a business where you've got technical engineering requirement when you're selling. So the salesperson has to have some sort of engineering nous because they're offering engineering solutions at the end of the day. I took on board your comment about, you know, what if somebody's actually not so good at the engineering part, but they're really good at selling? How do you get that sort of a mix in that sort of environment?
Induction. Depending on on the scale, I think that's a very broad question that you've asked me. I mean, let me give you an example. In the project home building space, we do business with 3 of the largest builders in the country. And we have re-engineered the way that people buy homes for that industry. And one of the things that we did, what we found out in our research, is that these people, when it came to actually understanding the build of a home, they had no idea. So we created inductions and actually academies for some of these clients, where their team goes through an ongoing series of technical, product-centric programs of which they are tested for competency before they're even client-facing. So they've got the skills, the behaviours, but also the product knowledge. So I don't know the depth and breadth when you say the technical expertise required in the electrical engineering scenario that you're painting.
It's more mechanical, but it's, you know, they need to be able to come up with a solution and do at least, at the very least.
Like a CAD drawing, you're saying? Or?
Well, a CAD drawing
Right,
sometimes at least a decent hand drawing.
right. So wouldn't you, from a HR or from a recruitment perspective, the first thing I would do is I'd profile that role and I'd find out what are the must-have competencies, so I assume drawing or whatever it may be, and then what I would do is profile what are the ideal or the must-have sales competencies. To me, it would be making contact, building desire, and closing. Kind of that, you know. That, so it's about understanding, and then I'd go about profiling people on that, and then developing them. Does that make sense? Because if you are looking to just find someone that ticks all those boxes, just, you know, if you ever find that person, just thank the sales angels, because we all want ideal, we all want utopia. Another question in there in the green shirt.
Going back to the social customer.
Yeah.
I've got an issue with, I use social media quite a bit, but when I started it was, I suppose, old school, which was calling face-to-face communication.
Yeah.
I always still think that that's better for us to do the final sale.
Yeah.
With the social customer, we're now getting a lot into LinkedIn, Instagram, a little bit of Facebook. The buyers, certainly some of them are coming from there. But are the salespeople going to lose their skill in communicating with them?
Yeah, just so you're clear, my view of the world, and everyone's got their own, but I can only share with you mine and what's working for the Australian market. I don't subscribe to pure social engagement. I think at the end of the day, sales is about humanising that relationship. And an example of that would be, it's what we call below the line. The stuff above the line, above that water line there, is all the logical data. It's like facts, figures, delivery times, features, benefits, price, logistics, etc., etc. But the stuff below the line is what they call things like, they're emotional. They're like a sense of trust, a sense of credibility, a sense of connection, low risk, empathy. I felt listened to, whatever. There's a lot of other, and Dan, you more than most people would know about that. So I think what social media does is it helps frame the bottom, below the line. I think, that the reputational issues, all that, for enough for us to go, okay, a case exists, the risk is low enough for us now to put a face to a name to explore how best at all we may be able to help each other. So I think there is always two parts. I don't know, in my view of the world, like in terms of most products and services, I won't go exclusively, but in terms of most, I think we still need to humanise it. We need to put a face to the name. There needs to be a touch point there if we want to build a customer for life. Does that make sense? Would you agree with that in the room? Yeah, exactly. Someone else? Another question? Yeah, shoot.
I'll just say a comment on that. I mean, we believe strongly that for salesmen to succeed, not just today, but for the future, it's all about delivery. It's ensuring that we deliver for our client what they're expecting of us, both in a cost perspective, but in a time frame and in the level of detail that he's expecting at the start. And all the marketing and all the other things that we do, whether it be through print or proper advertising,
Sure.
things and face-to-face calling, is all well and good to do that business development, but the ongoing continuation of business is all about the delivery and making sure that the company supports that delivery through their actions as the business manufactures whatever it does and delivers for the client exactly what he wants to ask.
100% agree with that. But I guess to even have the opportunity to deliver on what we said that we were going to do, we have to have a pipeline or a number of prospects to put through that sales process to go, yeah, okay, we are closed. And I'm just saying that part of that is about humanising that relationship. It's not, as the people say they want the cheapest price, what they really want is the best value for money. And if your team are not skilled on how to create value, like authentically sell value, if they don't know how to do that, that's problematic. The default position for most buyers or purchasers is going to be price. That's their risk reducer. So I totally agree with that.
If the trust developed through the delivery process, it is developed through the delivery process. What I'm sort of getting at is that the pipeline actually grows for the future as well with that.
Guaranteed, 100%. Yeah, 100%. Same page, exactly. And we really strategically need to be focusing on that. I don't think businesses nationally, we've done a really good job in looking after our past clients as well as what we could or should have. Would you agree with that as a philosophy or a train of thought? And I think we can always go back and revisit that, I'm doing it in my own business at the moment. It begins with an apology. Just picking up the phone as the director, 26 years in business, and we haven't done a good job in servicing you, and I'm not here to look for anything. I'm just here to say sorry because it's not good enough. And it's just amazing. When was the last time that you wrote a quick handwritten thank you card to a customer for no reason? Just sitting here in my office, Jack, and I just wanted to pen out a quick thank you for your loyalty to date. Trust things are going well. No doubt we'll speak again soon. Kind regards, Peter. Send it off. These types of really introspective human touch points are what create the authenticity of the process. So I hope that brought you some value. Enjoy the rest of the afternoon. Thank you.